Final Fantasy X and X-2 marked a huge shift in how the FF series would continue in the years to come, continuing the cinematic feel and deep, complex, character-driven stories that would precede it from Final Fantasy IV onwards. Now, this video is just going to be a short one. Are you kidding me? Covering all of the version differences that Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD brings to the table, and will serve as a companion video for my recent level up videos for X and X-2. Sup guys, Beersy here, and this time on Level Up I'll be taking a brief look at Final Fantasy X, X-2 HD Remaster, and some of the changes that it brought to the table. Also, this may turn into a bit of a criticism video, so you've been warned. Released initially on December 26, 2013 in Japan, and on March 18, 2014 in North America, March 20th in Australia, and March 21st in Europe on the PlayStation 3, Final Fantasy X, X-2 HD Remaster graced our consoles and enabled even more people to experience this absolute masterpiece. This was also released on the PlayStation Vita. Rest in peace. On the very same days in each region, so you could take the experience with you wherever you wanted. It even had a cloud-based cross-save system via PSN to enable you to take your progress on the go, in the same vein as the cross-firing system that was in the Metal Gear Solid HD collection, used to transfer save data between the PlayStation 3 and Vita respectively. This was also extended to the PlayStation 4 version when that released as well. The game was also released on PlayStation 4 in May of 2015, on PC in 2016, and even finally came to the Switch and Xbox platforms in April 2019, and finally to the Microsoft Store in 2021, making it one of the most widely accessible titles in the Final Fantasy catalog at the time until the re-releases of Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy XII, and the Pixel Remaster series released later on. Most of the enhancements in the Final Fantasy X, X-2 HD Remaster were already present in both of the international versions of both games, of which I've already made videos on, which you can now check out here. So I'll only be covering the HD enhancements of both Final Fantasy X and X-2 here. So sit back, grab your favourite beverage, and stay classy as I dive into the HD remasters of Final Fantasy X and X-2. I'll be mostly covering the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and the PC versions, and lightly touching upon the other releases as the bulk of the changes were present in those versions. But first, we gotta talk about who was responsible for the Final Fantasy X, X-2 HD Remaster. Final Fantasy X, X-2 HD Remaster's development was mostly handled by a studio named Virtuos. Virtuos had made some ports and full games in the past, including The Price is Right, a PSN exclusive title. Other than that, before working on Final Fantasy X, X-2 HD, they made the licensed Monster Jam, Path of Destruction for the 7th generation of consoles, including the PlayStation 3, 360, Wii, and even the DS and PSP. They're also known for working on such games as NBA 2013, XCOM Enemy Unknown for iOS, Horizon Zero Dawn for PC, Nier Automata for the Switch, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Demon's Souls. So they have a pretty decent track record. Currently they're assisting with the development of the new Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater. That one I'm 100% keen for, please don't this up, Virtuos and Konami. They were the team responsible for developing the PS3 and Vita versions of Final Fantasy X, X-2 HD Remaster, and they also had a hand in re-releasing all of the subsequent releases of the game as well, with support from Square Enix. They even worked on Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age, which you can watch my video on that remaster here. Now let's get into some of the updates that they brought to Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X HD Remaster is a fully HD remastering of the original Final Fantasy X International as its basis, so everything I've covered in that video is included in this release. This would mark the first time that North American players could now attempt to take on the harder versions of Omega Weapon, the Dark Aeons, and Penance amongst the rest of its editions. All of the game's textures had been remastered and updated, such as a new look for the UI, a whole new typeface, updated character models, updated NPC models, and enemy models were all fully upscaled and remastered. However, although this is a lovely, fully accessible way to play Final Fantasy X, it does have some glaring issues.
Beg your pardon, but that's not something a maester should say.
Shut up, Waka! This needs to be said. The NPCs in the PS3 version just don't look as good as they should, which you could attribute that to them just being NPCs. They don't need a full remaster. Well, unfortunately, the HD remaster brought in a very odd bug where some NPCs would keep their mouths open during cutscenes, leading to some hilarious results. Something else to note here is that the original 4x3 FMV cutscenes were used for the remaster, just cropped to 16:9 here and blown up to fit the 1080p sizing, which was also changed in the PC version, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So the cutscenes don't look as good as they originally did, and introduce a lot of artifacting due to the resizing from its 512x416 resolution, direct from the PlayStation 2 version. Now, I'm not saying they still don't look good today. In fact, I think they're one of the things that have aged really well from Final Fantasy X. But it's a minor gripe that I have with the remaster. But the gripes, they don't stop coming. And they don't stop coming. The character models in Final Fantasy X HD don't look as good in my opinion. And the smoothing of the faces makes the characters lose a lot of facial expression between the PS2 and the HD remaster versions that I believe take a lot away from the overall emotion of the characters. Here's a side-by-side example from the PlayStation 2 version of Yuna's face in the scene just before the Yunalesca battle, and the original PS3 version for comparison. And as a little extra, Titus's face in the cutscene where he meets Auron again in Luca. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments.
I loved him, so I will live with my sorrow. I will live my own life. I will defeat sorrow in his place. I will stand my ground and be strong. I don't know when it will be, but someday I will conquer it. And I will do it without false hope.
No, that's ridiculous! No way! I don't believe you!
But it is the truth. You'll see for yourself. Come with me.
If I say no?
Every story must have an ending.
I don't care about your stories!
I see. Sorry you feel that way. Fine then. Come or don't come, it's your decision.
What am I supposed to say? You tell me it's my decision. But I don't have a choice, do I? You're the only one who can tell me what's going on anyways. I have to go with you, I have to!
Irritating, I know. Or are you afraid?
He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy.
Personally, I'm not a fan with what Virtuos did for the faces of the characters here. The Final Fantasy X PC modding scene has released a bunch of mods including porting in the original faces for some of the playable characters. Including the mods from Pulse Arena and UniCB, you can check out their work and others like Epirade and Black Drugo's work on the links in the description below. The soundtrack in Final Fantasy X was also rearranged, with the PlayStation 4 version adding the ability to change OSTs between the original and rearranged versions, and this stayed in all subsequent releases afterward as well. Which do you prefer? I personally prefer the remastered version of some tracks, including Spira Unplugged. There's one minor change in the final battle with Braska's final Aeon. The track used is now the full-length version of Otherworld, not the different version that plays in the PS2 version. Some of the other changes that are in the remaster is that a new main menu cursor has been added, replacing the early thousands looking edgy cursor. I'm the best. There's a new neat looking loading icon with a Zanuck and Abe's emblem, with spear and text saying loading in the bottom right. This is a very nice touch. Trophy support was added in for the first time in the game's history in the PS3 version, and this carried over into the Steam achievements and Xbox achievements in their subsequent releases. Compared to the PS2 version, Yuna, Riku and Lulu no longer say any lines during Tidus's Blitz Ace Overdrive. Just a quick little editor's note here. When I tried this on the PS3 version, Riku would say "hi" in Japanese, so I don't know if it was the version I was playing on, but I could not replicate this. Some voice lines no longer play in the HD version, such as Yuna's lines in Luca.
Let's ask around.
Some enemy sound effects just straight up don't play, or are now taken direct from the Japanese version. And that covers most of the PlayStation 3 version's additions. Let's cover some stuff that the PS4 and Vita versions added in. In the Vita version, there was a major quality of life upgrade in the form of quick recovery. This just automatically uses the minimal amount of healing items or white magic to heal your party up to full. This can be accessed by swiping your finger on the Vita's touchscreen in any direction. This unfortunately did not make it into the PC or PS4 versions. Another thing about the Vita release is that the full version of 10HD was on the card, but the full 10.2 HD remaster was included as a download code. In the PlayStation 4 version, the graphics are further enhanced and serves as the basis for the HD remaster's re-releases going forward. The NPCs now look way better than the PS3 version, and now have better quality hands. Now this is better. The loading times were enhanced compared to the PS3's loading times. Valifor's Summon and Energy Blast Overdrive sound effects were also oddly removed, and some of Anima's sounds were played twice if the summoning animation was set to short. A 1.01 version was pushed out after release, fixing some issues like music restarting after a battle, and fixing some RNG issues that were in the initial release. Now, time for some of the biggest differences in the PC version before I lightly touch upon the later Xbox and Switch releases. The PC version gave players access to both the English and Japanese dubs, although this is oddly bound to language settings. This can be bypassed by using the Untitled X mod from Caldean? I don't know how to pronounce that. And even adds in a bunch of quality of life additions that I think are essential. I'll leave a link to it in the description if you're wanting to try it out for yourself. There's also a bunch of quality of life time-saving game booster features they added in as well, including Supercharge mode, which keeps all of your characters and Aeon's HP, MP and overdrive gauges at max at all times. The ability to increase or turn off enemy encounters. An auto battle function to make grinding a lot faster. An ability to hide the HUD for a cleaner overall look. Some special editions that cannot be undone, including getting 99 of all consumable items, unlocking every skill for every character in Aeon, and giving you max skill, which caps out at 999,999,999. And one of my favourite features returns from the Final Fantasy XII Remaster. Turbo Mode! This allows you to speed up movement and battles in the game to a 2 or 4 times multiplier. This also ensures cutscenes and overdrives don't get sped up as well to make grinding a whole hell of a lot faster. There's one glitch that's exclusive to the PC port that doesn't exist in any other version to date. Kimahri's ultimate weapon, the Spirit Lance, has a very unique visual glitch, where its feathers and prongs on the spear tip are not rendered at all when it's viewed from its left side. Weird that. Minor quality of life additions include adjustable resolution and graphics settings, remappable keyboard and controller buttons, and an auto-save function. All of the original PlayStation button prompts were changed to reflect the Xbox button prompts, but this can also be changed with the Untitled X mod as well. And now, onto the Switch and Xbox One changes, of which there aren't that many. One weird change is that the naming scheme of the celestial weapons, sigils, and crests now use the Japanese naming instead of the PlayStation naming. The quality of life boosters in the PC version were not ported over, except for the quick recovery feature, which was reintroduced into the Switch version. The Switch version also released in most regions with just Final Fantasy X HD Remaster on the card, similar to the PS Vita release. Another quality of life feature in these versions is that the sphere grid and customization tutorials could be skipped. And something I briefly touched upon in my Final Fantasy X International video is the inclusion of the short film Eternal Calm, showing the reasoning why Yuna begins her journey in Final Fantasy X-2. This was fully upscaled and remastered. I've already covered it, so you kind of already know what it's all about. Now with all that out of the way, let's take a dive into Final Fantasy X-2 HD and see what was changed. Not much was updated in comparison to Final Fantasy X HD, but some things were included. So let's dive in. There's not many differences for the X-2 HD remaster here, but this marks the first time in the game's history that allowed Western players to enjoy the Creature Creator, the Colosseum, and Last Mission, fully playable and with a full English voiceover. This also allowed Western players to enjoy the 2 new dress spheres, Festivalist and Psychic, and the 4 new garment grids as well. There's not really much else to say about the HD remaster for X-2. All the character models and textures have been upscaled, the UI has gotten a slight overhaul in comparison to X's UI, the FMVs are still cropped and not properly upscaled. One major difference in the PS3 HD remaster is that the original PS2 version of International Plus Last Mission allowed you to reuse a completed save file to obtain the perfect ending. Now, however, the HD remaster simply just assumes you had 100% save from the get-go, enabling you to get the hidden ending much more easily in comparison. The PS4 release had the same updates as X HD, so not much change between those releases. The PC version mostly remains the same, with everything carrying over from X's release, including the changeable graphics settings, autosave, remappable buttons, and the boosters present in Final Fantasy X. Only slight difference is, Supercharge only heals your HP and MP by 20% every second, rather than keeping them at full in 10. Also, auto battle is slightly changed here, now only using whatever the first ability is that each of the party members have equipped. The only difference with the Switch version is that in some regions in Asia, both X and X-2 were on the same card, whereas in the rest of the world, only Final Fantasy X HD Remaster was stored on the card. And now, the elephant in the room. I don't want to cover this part, but for the sake of fully covering the HD remasters, I need to talk about Final Fantasy X Will. on to the most original part of Final Fantasy X-2 HD Remaster. Square Enix decided to add in a little audio drama called Final Fantasy X Will in a separate credits section. And frankly, one of the worst things to be added in my honest opinion, other than some of the HD textures. Like, I like the way that Final Fantasy X and X-2 ended. Final Fantasy X-2's ending was just a better way to ensure Tidus and Yuna got their happily ever after ending. Look, I'm not going to deep dive too hard into this audio drama too much, but Will comes off the back of the novella sequel Final Fantasy X 2.5, Ayan no Daisho, which translated means The Price of Eternity, which chronicles what happens to both Yuna and Tidus just after the events of X-2. Spoiler warning, all you really need to know is Tidus and Yuna learn more about the ancient spirit past by getting whisked away on a ship. Tidus decides in his infinite wisdom to kick a bomb because he thinks it's a blitzball and he just dies. Yuna gets help from a god to bring Tidus back and seal her memories of his death. Yeah, it wasn't received well by fans. It was a Japan-only novella and it was released on the very same day that the remaster launched in Japan. Look, I have not read it, and I choose not to personally, but fan translations exist online if this does pique your curiosity. Anywho, Will then launches off from when Ayan no Daisho ends, with a whole bunch of new characters, and Yuna and Tidus' relationship is on the rocks, and Tidus is way weaker than before, the Farplane Fireflies become more unstable, more illusions keep appearing, Auron had a secret daughter.
Auron's daughter?
Mayor?
Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Sin just comes back?
I will defeat Sin. I must defeat Sin.
Yeah, I'm not doing a particularly good job in explaining this one, but with the lack of proper localization to English of the novella and just how lost you feel after listening to Will, look, hard pass. I understand Kazushige Nojima and Yoshinari Kitase wanted to give a look into life after Final Fantasy X-2, and sometimes the dream isn't what it's cracked up to be, and things in life don't always pan out how we want them to, but let me live my delusions! Look, I've only listened to it probably about 3 times in my entire life. Once to check it out, once more to try and piece together what the actual I just heard, and one more for this video. Kinda wish I didn't. But anyway, it's there if you like that sort of thing. But look, I'll give this one a hard pass. Well, that's mostly everything the Final Fantasy X-2 HD Remaster has to offer. I feel like this is a pretty good bookend to the Final Fantasy series I started over 6 years ago. Starting off with International Zodiac Job System, I've also covered X-2 International, plus Last Mission, and look, I'll be definitely making some new videos in the new year as well. Maybe I'll cover some of the re-releases of Final Fantasy, I don't know, we'll see. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and comment below what was your favourite memory of Final Fantasy X and X-2. Stay classy as everybody, and enjoy your Christmas holidays. Busy out! So, Sid Grack? What? Jesus Christ. There's one minor change in the final battle. A 1.01 version was pushed out after release. Fishing issues.